The voice lingered in the air like smoke, thick and heavy, pressing against their skulls. The soldier gripped his rifle, knuckles white, the scientist's eyes darting in the pitch black, searching for movement, but the darkness itself felt like it was breathing. The treasure hunter held the sphere tighter, its glow now faint, as if afraid, but each time the ancient voice spoke it pulsed once like a heartbeat. The hybrids stood motionless around them, claws flexing, teeth bared but unmoving, their heads slightly lowered as though waiting for permission. The ground shifted, not a tremor, but the deliberate movement of something massive rising through the layers of rock. The sound was a deep grinding mixed with a faint high-pitched echo of stone fracturing, and somewhere far above faint cracks of daylight began to spill down in thin lines. The soldier took a step back, but his boots splashed in shallow water, and the sound seemed to wake the hybrids. They turned their heads toward him in perfect unison, their eyes catching the faint glint of the sphere's light, and in that instant they charged. The soldier fired, the muzzle flashes briefly illuminating the chamber enough for the treasure hunter to see the truth. The hybrids weren't just attacking, they were hurting them, driving them deeper into the tunnels toward the source of the voice. The scientist shouted to run, but the soldier was already grabbed, a hybrid's claw digging into his shoulder, dragging him down before the treasure hunter slammed the sphere against the wall. A shockwave of light bursting outward, sending the hybrid stumbling back, hissing as if burned. The ancient being let out a sound like 1,000 stones cracking at once. The light from the sphere reflected in its golden eye, and for the first time it moved toward them, its head lowering until it filled the tunnel, its breath like a furnace. The treasure hunter felt the whisper again, but now it was clearer, words forming in his mind. "You are mine." His knees buckled. The scientist grabbed his arm, pulling him toward a narrow side tunnel, daylight at the far end, but the ground between them and the exit erupted as the Spinosaurus burst through, its massive form blocking the way, its armored plates now glowing with the same molten lines as the ancient being, as if it had been marked. The hybrids swarmed in behind, sealing off any retreat. The sphere's light began to dim rapidly until it was no brighter than a candle. The ancient voice spoke again, this time in the common tongue. "So there was no misunderstanding. The war is not between us and you, the war is for you." The soldier gasped as the hybrids began to move, not toward the humans, but toward the Spinosaurus, the ancient being watching in silence as predator and creation clashed in the narrow tunnel, teeth against steel, claws against molten armor, water and blood spraying across the walls. The treasure hunter realized they had seconds before the fight collapsed the tunnel entirely. The scientist screamed to move, and they sprinted along the wall, leaping over debris, dodging snapping jaws as the ceiling groaned and rocks rained down above them. They burst into daylight, gasping for air, but behind them the roar of the Spinosaurus mixed with a deeper inhuman bellow, shaking the cliffs and sending flocks of pterosaurs screaming into the sky. And when they looked out across the ocean, the horizon was gone, replaced by a wall of moving shapes closing in on the mainland. The wall of shapes surged closer, each movement sending waves that pounded the cliffs, the sunlight glinting off wet scales and jagged armor. The soldier counted at least 100 massive creatures, each one different, some pure dinosaur, some warped hybrids with impossible limbs. The pterosaurs above wheeled in a vast spiral, their cries blending into one long scream, as if announcing the coming of something worse. The treasure hunter clutched the sphere tighter, but its light was fading, almost gone, as though the ocean itself was swallowing its power. The scientist's voice trembled. "They're not coming to attack, they're coming to claim it." The ancient being's voice rolled through their heads like distant thunder. "The crown returns to its throne." The ground beneath their feet vibrated, the cliffs cracking apart, and from the fissures smaller creatures poured out, slick with seawater, their movements jerky, unnatural, like marionettes pulled by invisible strings. The soldier fired, but every kill was replaced by two more. The air filled with the stink of rotting kelp and brine as the first of the great beasts hit the shore, shaking the earth with each step, water rushing past them as they moved inland. The Spinosaurus burst from the tunnel behind, its armor cracked and smoking, molten lines pulsing wildly, its roar echoing over the battlefield. Hybrids swarmed at its heels, not to kill, but to drive it forward toward the humans. The ancient being rose from the sea, not in full form, but in a colossal silhouette, its body lost in mist, its eyes twin suns burning gold. The treasure hunter's legs buckled, the sphere in his hands suddenly blazing so bright it burned his skin, forcing him to drop it. It didn't fall, it hovered, spinning faster and faster above the sand, sending out ripples of light that knocked hybrids to the ground. The great beasts on the shore froze, every head turning toward it. The air thickened as if time itself had slowed, and then in one impossible motion they all roared together, the sound tearing through the cliffs and shattering the nearest buildings. The sphere shot upward into the sky, a streak of fire disappearing into the low clouds, and from that moment everything changed. The creatures stopped fighting and began to march inland in perfect unison, ignoring the humans entirely. The soldier shouted that this was their chance to escape, but the scientist grabbed his arm, eyes locked on the horizon. The sphere wasn't gone, it was moving, and everything on land and sea was following it. The treasure hunter felt the whisper return, colder, now sharper and far more urgent. "It's not running, it's leading them, and if it reaches the heart of the mainland, nothing will survive."